Okay, so my name is Janae Spear, and I'm finishing a series on Jonah and the whale and his call to go to Nineveh and talk to the Ninevites about changing their ways, repenting, giving thanks to God, and then God would turn his favor towards Nineveh and protect it from destruction, right? So it's interesting that I would pick this story. My name is, like I said, Janae Spear. Nineveh is the town of Mesopotamia, right? It's Iraq, Iran region. The Assyrians, right? The Assyrian Empire. And so the most famous person that came from Nineveh was Gilgamesh, right? So Gilgamesh was this epic demigod warrior that threw a spear, right? So the whole story of the poem of Gilgamesh is he throws a spear 50 times to defeat the bad guy, right? So my last name's Spear as well, and first name's Janae, similar to Jonah. So it's interesting that I would pick this story to talk about, but I wanted to, I finished the series already, but I was really fascinated, and I wanted to know why exactly Jonah really didn't like the Ninevites so much. Why did he not like Assyria, and why would he run away? Well, I started watching a video, and it was by the video was by the Christian Church of Perkins. It was filmed yesterday. It's a really good story. If you have a chance to watch the video on YouTube, it's great. But the guy says there's two reasons, really. The first reason is that Jonah's father was murdered by the Ninevites, right? So there's a good reason why Jonah doesn't want anything to do with them, right? They did something horrible and atrocious to his father. And then the other thing is that the Ninevites were known throughout the ancient world for just doing the most horrible atrocities that you could possibly imagine. So the prophet Nahum goes back to Nineveh actually 100 years after Jonah does. Jonah saves the town, right? And then they turn back to their evil ways. So Nahum has to come back, and they don't turn this time, and so they do have a judgment against them. But Nahum says that the town was kind of the things that Nineveh did the worst. It was full of witchcraft and prostitution, right? So he said, "Woe to this bloody city! It was known as the city of blood. It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not." So what Nahum is saying right there, sometimes you hear in the news stories about places where evil atrocities have occurred, right? And there's no witnesses. You're like, why aren't there any victims telling their stories, right? Well, the prey departeth not. They got rid of the prey. So that's exactly what happened in Nineveh. Where did these people go? They just kind of disappeared, right? So I wanted to read to you how exactly Nineveh was so bad. And this is pretty graphic content, so if you got kids, be careful. This is more for adults, but here's a list of the things that they would do. So they like to impale prisoners alive. They flayed people. They caused beheadings. They like to drag people to death with ropes that had these rings. They pierced to the bodies of the people. And the king was known for blinding people himself, right? Anybody that he didn't like. And he liked to torture people. So they liked to hang people by their feet, and those people would die slowly. Their brains were beaten out, their tongues were cut out, and some of them were cut with lots of cuts and then left to die slowly. So other things that they would do, they would actually kill a prisoner and cut off their head, right? And then they would create a necklace out of the person's head and then put it on the next prisoner just to freak the other prisoner out and cause dread and fear in their hearts, right? So they would make other prisoners wear the body parts of prisoners that had already died. So yeah, it was called the City of Blood. As for in regards to the lies that they committed, supposedly that they broke treaties, they deceived a lot of other nations, and they always demanded tribute from anybody that they conquered, right? And then the robbery. So what they did was they killed all these victims, and they stole everything that the victim had. So that was how they were so rich and wealthy, is that their riches and wealth were built on the bones of their victims, kind of like a Black Widow or something like that. So they also like to parade their captives nude through the city, right? And they would throw stones at them and garbage and human poop and stuff like that. So in the time of Nahum said, the same attacks that you have carried out against all these other people, you're going to fall into the same trap that you set for them. Everything that you set up for them, you will fall into that same trap. So that's the snare of the fowler, right? So the fowler sets a trap, expects somebody to fall into it. Well, God's way of recompense is to have the fowler fall into the trap that he set for the others, right? So they will fall into the pit that they dug for me, and that's mentioned several times in the Bible, especially with King David. So the other things that I wanted to mention, I hope I got everything out here, but yeah, Nineveh was known mostly for witchcraft and prostitution. That was the two signature things that they were known for most. So Nahum said, he is actually quoted as saying, because of the multitude of harlotries, the mistresses of witchcraft that selleth nations through harlotry, and families that are overtaken by witchcraft, this is why Nineveh is, in trouble with God. So, the goddess that from Nineveh was Ishtar. She's the goddess of sex, fertility, and war, right? And she's kind of similar to Jezebel in character. She uses her seductions to seduce many nations, and then she's pretty deceptive as well. So Nahum says like a couple of things that will happen in the destruction of Nineveh, and it does actually get destroyed years later, like 100 years later after Jonah, because they turn back to their evil ways. So Nahum says, you will not be able to defend yourself when judgment comes. Your works will be in vain. They will come to no fruition. Your wealth will all disappear. People will betray you and vanish you at your time of need. Your leaders will die in war, and your death will make everyone happy. So these are the 6 things that Nahum lays out to them. He says, all the things that you wanted for these other people and you did to these other cities, these 6 things, that's going to happen to you. You're going to fall into the same pit that you set for them, right? So anyway, so that's the story of Nineveh. I just want to close this video just to give you more context and detail about why exactly Jonah did run away and why he was so reluctant to go to these people. I mean, these people made pyramids out of people's heads. Like, would you want to, tell these people to behave? Honestly? Especially after they just killed your father. So, yeah, you didn't want to talk to them. So, I totally understand. So, anyways, that's the end of that series. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.